let's go ahead and get started, and we'll see how this goes. And the good news is, if we don't have a ton of people tune in, we can still direct people to the recording of it, and people can come back and watch it and listen, and everything. And maybe on the next album, we'll be able to figure out how to do this on TikTok.
Yeah, maybe we'll have 1,000 TikTok followers by then.
I am sure that y'all could do that pretty quickly. All right. Well, hey y'all. I'm Folk Punk Dad, aka Will Parker, or Will Parker, aka Folk Punk Dad. And it's so great to be on this call with you. I'm so excited to speak with Doomscroll about your new album, Immoral Compass. And I think a great way to get started would be if y'all want to introduce yourselves and say what you do in Doomscroll, and also what your other folk punk or music projects have been, since this is, as far as I know, the only folk punk supergroup out there, which is pretty exciting. So, yeah, I'd love to hear from y'all.
Cool. I guess I'll start. My name's Riz. I play in this project. I play percussion, and I'm also in Chatterbox and the Latter-day Satanists. Play washboard in that band, and I play washboard in Chad Hates George. And I also play solo stuff. I think that's it.
I'm Taylor. I play washboard in this band, and I sing in this band as well. And then I played washboard in Broken Bow.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm Elliot, aka Smelliot, and I play mandolin in Doomscroll. And I guess I am the guitarist in We the Heathens, and I also play in Escape from the Zoo and Atrocity Solution.
P. I play guitar in Doomscroll, and I also play in a band called Deadwork, and then another band called Recession Proof.
Oh yeah, I'm Micah. I play guitar and sing in Chatterbox and the Latter-day Satanists. I also play musical saw in Ludlow and ukulele in Chad H. George, and I play bass in Doomscroll.
Fantastic. Thank you all so much.
Lots of music projects going on.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I'd like to hear a little bit about how the band came together. How did you all form? What's the story there?
What's the story, Elliot?
Regale us, please.
Last year, I decided to just write some. My other band, We the Heathens, we were originally acoustic, and then we went electric. And I wanted to continue the acoustic sound, so I decided last year I was going to write some acoustic specific songs, and just kind of, I guess, snowballed into what it is now. It's at first it was just going to be like a quick solo thing that I was going to do, just to like put stuff out there, and then I just kept adding and adding and adding and layering, and I was like, wow, this would be cool. Well, what if we add this and this and this and this? And then and then I went out. Well, I mean, Taylor and I are together, so I was like, hey Taylor, you want to play washboard on this cool thing? And she thankfully said yes. And then I went down to Texas to record the latest Escape from the Zoo album, and Riz wanted to know if there was openings in the band, and I said, I don't really have a band, let's do this. So and then after that, shortly after that I met P, and I was like, hey, you should play over here, because there's not many people in Colorado that I know that play music. So, and then after that I was like, well, we need one more piece of the puzzle, and I asked Mike if Micah wanted to play some bass, and then
I was down, yeah.
Yeah, and then at the time, well, I guess right now Riz is still living in Texas, but Micah just moved up here, and we've just been pumping stuff out just left and right, just music videos, projects. We have like so many things going on. It's just been nonstop for the last like 2 months.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's so exciting. Yeah, I was
Really-
just going to ask how many of you, what was that?
I'm really tired.
Yeah, I was just going to ask how many of you are based in Colorado, and you're in Loveland, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So
where?
everyone here is living in Colorado except for me. I just came up to do some music videos. We're doing like some recordings for an unreleased further project with someone, and then I'm going back to Houston, and then I'm just gonna fly up when I'm needed, basically. Just going back to Houston so I can try and nest egg some money together so we can keep the touring train rolling once, things keep opening up.
Yeah.
We're gonna try and tour as much as we can.
Right. Well, in the world we live in today, it's very feasible to have an active band with people living all over the country. Because I know that you all recorded this album in quarantine, right?
Yeah.
So I'd love
Recorded. Elliot and Taylor recorded here and then sent the tracks to Micah and I and my brother in Houston. And we did some stuff on it and then sent it back, and then P put some stuff on it. So yeah, I mean, it's super easy to work remotely like that these days with all this technology.
Yeah. What program did y'all use to record it?
I used Reaper for this one. It was, I mean, I've been using Reaper for like the last 10 years, but I just recently got a new computer. I'm trying out Logic, and he's the Logic master. He's going to teach me his ways.
Nice. Yeah, I often use Logic. Have you heard of that that widget called Mixim? Mixim. I think it's still in beta mode, but one of my collaborators and one of my best friends and I have used it, and it's almost like Google Docs for Logic, and it makes remote recording really easy because it's like you're both accessing the same Logic file, and you can't do it completely live, but if you like do some edits and save it, then your friend who also has this Mixim widget can open up the file and see your edits immediately, and it's pretty.
Like the Google Drive of recording, kind of.
That's kind of how I refer to it, but it's worked well for us. So if you're getting into Logic, that's something you might think about, especially if you need to do more remote recording or anything like that.
Heck yeah.
Look into that.
Definitely gonna look into that. It was. I mean, it's not so bad sending files back and forth, but at times it can be kind of tedious. Like especially if you want changes or anything, like on the fly. You have to write notes and send it back, and it's a lot. But,
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, totally. Mixim has made that a lot easier. So if y'all end up using it, let me know what you think. I'm hearing that y'all are planning on doing some touring. Do you have any of those details worked out yet, or is that all still up in the air? Do you know where you might go or where you want to go?
Well, right now we're playing, in October we're playing Moonrunners, which is a huge festival in Chicago.
Oh, nice.
And a couple days prior to that, we're playing a couple of dates in Chicago as well with Days and Days.
Mm-hmm.
And past that, we have like a tentative tour that we're planning for November for like 2 weeks, like mid to late November. But we don't have like set dates there yet. We're still trying to work around like everyone's work schedule and stuff like that.
Totally. Well, I really hope that I can come to see you because I absolutely love the album. I think it's fantastic. And, when your singles came out, well, I was listening to your demo when that came out. And I was like, this is great. I can't wait for more of this. And then your 2 singles released, and I listened to those a lot and thought they were fantastic. And the album as a whole is just awesome. One of the things I love most in any kind of music ever is Dane vocals and like lots of people singing together. And there's a wonderful amount of this on this album that I just very personally appreciate. I'd love to hear from you all with your thoughts on this album. Were there particular songs that have a special meaning to you, or that stand out to you, or that are important to you in some way. And I'd just love to hear if y'all have reflections on individual songs, or if you'd rather speak of the album as a whole and what that means to you. That is also, if that's an easier question.
Each song, I wrote all the song, well, the majority of the songs on the album, and each song just kind of had its own place when I was writing it. Like I was just feeling a certain way. Like the title track, Immoral Compass, is all about. I wrote it when people started basically condemning other people to death out of inconvenience, and I thought it was kind of absurd that just regular people are just they're just so hell-bent on getting their way and not looking at things from other people's perspectives. And I just like that hit really hard. And
I think you wrote that song particularly about I think you told me that you wrote that when when all the protests were happening and people were just like running people over with their cars, and just like how terrifying that is, and the social climate. I mean it's just terrifying.
It's insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, that go ahead.
I was just going to ask, what is your hope of what people will get out of that song when they listen to it?
I guess that they realize what it means to die, because I don't think people are so desensitized nowadays. It's like they're like, oh, I wish that person was dead. I want to kill that person. They just say these things, but they don't really think about what it means to end someone's life. Like, think about all the time that they've spent to get up to that point in life before they die. They have an entire life that they've had, and people are just so quick to just end it and just or just condemn people to death. Like, why pass that judgment? What makes you the person to pass that judgment? Like, that's such a huge thing, and nobody really takes.
It's so interesting that you say that. I'm not really much of one to watch UFC or boxing or wrestling or anything, but last night I'm over here at a friend's house staying in Tulsa, and they had some friends over to watch this big fight, this UFC fight, and there was McGregor, who was very aggressive. He's a big name. And he talks about like putting his opponents in a coffin, talks about like murdering them in the ring. And then the person who beat him last night, when they gave him the mic, he was like, I don't think it's right that he talks to people like that. I think that I want him to go home to his beautiful family. And it was a really big contrast. And, and then they interviewed McGregor, who had just lost, and he was bitter and still talking shit. And so I think, that's just like a very clear example that I witnessed last night in culture of like, how do we, even just the language we use, or even, it's not just our actions that are violent or nonviolent, but it's also the language that we use to be violent or nonviolent. And that has an impact.
Yeah, I guess I would just hope that people take away, it's even in like subcultures, you often see people get divided for like, way less opinions than something as big as that. And I think it's important to remember that we're all human and we can all grow and work on our behaviors and, just work on our compassion maybe a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
For real.
Yeah. This connects to, I think, a question that I had prepared and written down that I'd be curious to hear anyone's answer on. But again, it's kind of a bit of a big question, or it can be take it how you will. But what does folk punk mean to you?
I think for me specifically, as someone who has been playing folk punk for like 12 years or something, God, yeah, it's kind of a loaded question.
It really is.
Folk punk
You
in
take
general, just
however
like,
you
you know, we have access to like these materials, right? Like a $50 guitar or whatever. And then just like writing how your heart feels. I feel like that's like the baseline of folk punk.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, like on a broader spectrum, I would just like to say, like, I guess maybe in a more ideal world than even the one we're living in, like just community and taking care of each other and experiencing music together and having a good time without like strict judgment involved.
Yeah, I always viewed it as like just like I don't know, like trying to speak out against oppression or bringing people together or like just communication really in general. Like I know that people listen to music for a lot of different reasons, but like for me, I've always been such like a lyric driven person that like I just felt like it was a way for people to express how they felt, and then like also other people can be like, oh well, like I felt that way too, like a bunch of times, and like you actually put it into words that I really connect with. And I don't know, like there's a lot like in folk punk. There's some good and bad, but like it's always been like the most inspiring genre for me, at least, just because it had so much communication. But when a band can be like really good at the music they're playing and convey a message that I like vibe with, like that's like the best music in the world to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really identify with both things that y'all are sharing. Anyone else want to take a stab at that question?
No comment from me.
He's not a huge fan of folk punk.
Oh, right.
Meanwhile, they're in a folk punk band.
Things happen. Where you are, and sometimes it's good.
Could be good.
Yeah, it could be good. It could be good.
Elliot, were you about to chime in?
Yeah. I guess personally, I mean, when I listen to any type of music, I'm listening to music first and foremost before lyrics and any of that. And I know like folk punk has its politics connected to it, and I guess that's not the first thing that I'm attracted to. And you know, if with this band in particular, I wanted to just take the classic folk punk sound, I guess, you know, just all your acoustic instruments that are going as fast as you can, and I just wanted to try and make it weirder and try and make the sound more apparent than the politics. And I know like I did focus heavily on the lyrics, but I focused more on the sound and how it was like there's songs that use like weird time signatures that I don't think a lot of folk punk bands do, and like I tried to do like punk beat over 3/4 and just weird things that you wouldn't really expect in a regular like folk punk band. And because it just you know when you say folk punk, there's a lot of negative connotations that just get attached to that. So I wanted to just try and break out of that and make it so it's more approachable for people, for I guess outside.
Just like a broader audience.
Yeah. I definitely heard that in the album. Yeah. Well, I think the album is really successful in that because it, you know, if someone does just say, "Hey, listen to this folk punk song," they might be expecting that kind of like what Riz was talking about, the bass line of a $50 guitar and someone singing a raw emotional song about whatever it might be, which is, I love that, and I am very attracted to that sort of music. But there's also a lot of people might be like, you know, what is this? Like, why am I listening to this? And so if someone is introduced to folk punk with some of the interesting instrumentation and time signatures and harmonies and complex things y'all are doing, that's going to be a very different experience for someone, and they'll probably have very different associations with folk punk just based on what they're exposed to.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, what Micah was saying earlier, I'm also someone who is very drawn to lyrics in music. My favorite bands for a long time have been the Mountain Goats and Bob Dylan, and pieces of music where the lyrics are really foundational. And it's almost like the instrumentation might be second to the lyrics in some cases. But I think you all very successfully on this album marry high quality lyrical content with high quality, interesting, engaging instrumentation. And I think it's really successful in that way. I just think you all deserve a
That's
lot of
definitely
congratulations.
the goal.
Mhm.
It's stellar. And to those of you watching, you have a lot to look forward to on June 23rd. So let's see. I'm looking at some of my questions. It looks like we've touched on a lot of those. I'd just like to echo back again this meaning of folk punk, of the community element and the helping one another and being there for one another, and this sense of creating the world we want to see, even if it's a microcosm. Like I think about that a lot, how sometimes at a show, I almost want that show to be a microcosm of what I want the world to look like.
Totally.
And
I've been to shows like that, and it's
Right?
like so nice
Mhm.
when those shows happen.
You can feel the love, you can feel the energy, you can feel the respect and dignity, and the people feeling seen and heard, and a profound sense of belonging. Those kind of shows. Do y'all know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And my, when I'm doing things like that, whether it's a show or I do a lot of musical improv too. My hope is that by creating these little small communities, even if it's just a community for a night at a show, or maybe it's a community in a band with the dynamics of a band, by creating those, we can use those as seeds or sort of jumping off points to creating the world around us that we want to see. And is that something that you all have experienced or think about, or?
Oh, definitely. I feel that way about just smaller DIY shows that are like all ages and inclusive, where you just feel like safe. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I met basically everyone that I know from shows and music, and
yeah,
like
that's how I
if
know most of my friends.
if I hadn't started playing music and playing shows and like meeting people that I could relate to, I wouldn't know like anyone.
Yeah.
True.
It's
Yeah.
definitely specific to this genre too. I mean, like
Mhm.
folk punk and punk in general just has this, the community. Like you go out to like a rock show or a metal show, it's a completely different vibe, different show, It's,
Mhm.
Yeah,
So I
for
do
sure.
appreciate that.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that really appeals to me about folk punk, and it's been interesting to see how the folk punk community isn't just who you interact with at a live show, but there's also a lot of opportunities for support and connection online, whether it's Facebook or TikTok or whatever it might be. And so in my mind, sometimes it feels like I have sort of smaller communities in folk punk of people that I know, but also sort of this larger community with kind of an understanding of taking care of each other, supporting each other, and like listening and being in community.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a TikTok live session with Ben Silver, who's a TikToker, and he loves folk punk and talks a lot about mental health, and he's a really great guy. And we did this 90-minute conversation about folk punk, and one of the things that he talked about, which I thought was really on point, is he talked about how in folk punk even though they're really popular folk punk artists, there's not really celebrity in folk punk. It seems like even the most popular folk punk artists are still very accessible and not on some. There's not really a hierarchy exactly. It does feel like, hey, we're all in this together. And is that something that you sense in folk punk, or what has been?
Definitely.
Yeah, I definitely feel that way. All of like the bigger folk punk names that I've met, like Pat the Bunny, or my brother Jesse. Like I haven't had like a bad experience really. They've all been like really personable, albeit like a lot of us in the folk punk scene have like a lot of social anxiety, which is weird. Like a lot of us have that. But I mean, everyone has always been super nice to me that I've met, and just kind of like we're meeting for this first time, but like almost like we already know each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely sensed that a lot. I remember when I first started playing folk punk music, I was like it's wild that you can basically just hit up anyone in the scene, like even the most famous people that were playing the genre, and be like, hey, I like your music, and like chances are they'll like respond. But if you try to like hit up the most famous metal band or most famous like classic rock band, like you're probably not gonna hear anything from them, like.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is weird.
Yeah,
it's accessible. Sure.
Yeah, and I think that accessibility ties in with the overall theme and intention of community.
Totally.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I'm curious. Was there anything that was particularly challenging about recording this album? Snags you hit, things that were, yeah. I'm interested in what sort of challenges you all may have faced in this process, and how you're navigating those, or how you maybe overcame them. Elliot.
Learning and playing the cello.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
That was the biggest hiccup. I got a cello. I rented a cello and thought, I know how to play instruments. I could totally do this. And then when it came time to record, it took me like hours and hours and hours to, get the intonation right, get the bowing right, get all these little things that I didn't even think about when I was just playing little notes here and there. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm making music. But when you play with a song on time, intonated, it was terrible.
Oh my gosh.
It was terrible.
He did it in like a week. He's just being bad.
It was hard.
It's fine. He was like, I don't know how to play the cello, but I'm going to do it for this album.
That sounds insanely challenging, and I'm also very impressed.
So hard. But yeah, that was probably the biggest.
Yeah, really. I mean, none of us were in the band when like the album was in production, musical instrument wise. So
yeah, the whole band is just Elliot.
Just Elliot and
The whole
Taylor.
album is just Elliot.
I saw that on the Bandcamp. There's a different lineup for the recording as opposed to the live show. And I noticed on the recording, some of y'all are just contributing vocals, but in the live show, everyone has vocals and
Us
instruments.
three added vocals.
yeah, that's it.
They
We
did
only,
the album.
we only added vocals on the record.
Right.
So we actually only first started playing all together like 3 weeks ago, maybe.
How did that feel?
It was
great.
It felt great.
It
yeah.
was pretty rough at
Amazing.
first, but like I mean, we just all learned the songs just playing to recordings, right? That they
Yeah.
recorded. So we all got together, and there was some hiccups, but it's definitely
We sounded good in 2 days.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's starting to
totally.
sound a lot better.
I spent like a ridiculous amount of time learning those bass parts too. So I was just like sitting in Houston because it's like, we were still quarantined, and like I just spent basically every day playing music. And then like Elliot was like, do you want to play bass? And I just shifted to that and spent like a lot of time. So by the time we were up here, I was like feeling pretty confident about it. But yeah, they're really hard parts and really fun to play too.
Yeah.
This band just consists of all of us just learning new things.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
That's been the whole band. Like, like everybody just kind of one-upping their musical game, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd love to hear what some of the other folks learned. What was new?
I mean,
Singing.
yeah, fair.
Singing in general was new for me.
Yeah, I had never played bass in any other band. I mean, I played like a few. Me, Elliot, and Riz played like a few shows with Riz's solo stuff, and that was fun. But it was like a really short thing. But besides that, I had never really played the bass before, so that was like new as well. Yeah.
Elliot's just a better guitarist than me, so like I just had to like learn how to play better.
Yeah.
So
I'm doing like a completely new thing I've never done before. I have like a kick drum like on a cajon, and then like a hi-hat and cymbals, basically like a smaller drum set situation, and I've never done that before in my life until like 2 months ago. So
while singing.
while
Wow,
singing.
cool.
So it's been difficult, really difficult.
I noticed that I was like, oh, Riz is not doing washboard, and yeah, so I can see how that would be challenging. I think this playing percussion instruments and singing at the same time, anyone that can do that like blows my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's difficult.
Yeah, I've been playing drums for like 15 years, and it's still hard for me to like play the drums and sing something at the same time.
It's like a different.
This while going.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know how anyone can do that.
Yeah. So another question: what has surprised you the most about this experience? What about this experience of forming the band, getting together? What's been the most surprising for you?
That it happened, and we I mean, because there's you always were like, yeah, let's get a band together, you know, when you're hanging out. You're like, let's form a band, we're in a band, and it never happens, and this actually happened.
Yeah.
So that's pretty surprising.
Yeah.
Really awesome. And then we have 4 music videos that we've recorded now.
Wow.
The most surprising thing is how quickly, I guess, like the reason we're getting things done so quickly is because I'm not moving to Colorado, so we have like a designated amounts of time to get like as much things that we can get done. So we're just like pumping shit out. I think I haven't seen a lot of bands pump shit out this fast. It's been like very exhausting.
It's been really tiring.
Music video every weekend.
Yeah.
Every week.
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah, I was in a band back in San Antonio, and we were initially going to be a folk punk band for kids, but then decided that we just want to be for anybody, and adults and teenagers too. Our earlier songs were our first song was very kid appropriate. It was like, what do you do with the mad that you feel? And Jesse and Veronica actually sing on the track.
Really? I didn't know that.
They were playing a show in Days and Days was playing a show in San Antonio, and my friend Olivia hit Jesse up on Facebook and was like, hey, y'all want to come over for dinner? And we all ate some pasta, and then we were like, hey, we're recording the song, do y'all want to sing on it? And they're like, okay, cool. And yeah, Jesse's voice especially sounds great on it. Veronica's a little harder to hear. She was singing more quietly. But we started this band and started playing shows almost immediately and recorded an album all within a year. And then we all kind of moved on. But just that sort of immediacy of creating something and having it out and happening so quickly is something that it's to me it was a unique experience. It's like, wow, all of this is happening so fast. It was like just a month ago none of this existed for me, and now there's this totally brand new living thing in my life that is like shaping my life and changing things about my life and influencing me in different ways. And that's how it was for me. So I'm wondering, for y'all, what has this process, what would you say it's done for you? What has something happened with you internally or externally that this project so far has made happen in your life or in your experience? It's kind of a convoluted question, but I hope you know what I'm trying to get at.
I'd say it just like kicked me into gear a little bit because I have really only been like doing visual art for a while. And then like all this stuff started happening and we were like, oh, there's all these things we need to do in this short amount of time. So I was like, you know, this is the first I played music in a while because I was like kind of pushed to learn something new. And I was like, oh shit, I need to like sit down and like learn this instrument and do things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, this band has really just like pushed me to get better and like strive to do that. And also like not, I don't know, I think I spent a lot of time like doubting myself and thinking that I couldn't do things. And like I just realized at a certain point, like within the past year and a half or whatever, that I just needed to like do it. And I think just Elliot's a really great writer and like has driven me to play, like learn bass better. And then like we were recording some stuff and like Elliot was like, oh, you're like flat in this one part, like my voice. And then like, I don't know, Elliot's just making me a better musician because we were like recording this one part and I was like, he told me that I was flat and then I was like, oh, and like, so do I sing it like this? Like while I wasn't playing the bass, and then I would sing it right. But then when I tried to do it while playing bass, I sang it wrong again. And it's just like, I don't know. I'm just like being like acknowledging the stuff that I'm not getting right away and being like, just, you got to just practice and get there because you will eventually. Just it takes time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, the whole process for me has just been like invigorating, just seeing the amount of feedback, like positive feedback. And I mean, like, this band has more traction than every band I've ever been in 10 years, you know, like bands that I've been in for 10 years. And like, it's just really exciting to see all the work we're putting in, like paying off as quickly as it is. And the acknowledgement has been just fantastic. And it's been, I feel like it's invigorating me to like want to put in more work on other stuff again.
Totally.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. For me, it's like, I guess I haven't felt this kind of, family. You know, when you're in a band, there's different bands you're in where you're like, I'm in a band and I play in this band, or you're in a band with your friends and you're like, you have like kind of a kinship almost, you know. It's like I haven't felt this way in a long time, and I feel like it just like right off the bat when we all got together, it was like immediately we were in this together, you know, and it felt good, you know.
We also all get along, which is really nice. I've been in plenty of bands where there's just like, you know, conflict.
It's true.
It's nice. It feels easier.
Yeah, we're definitely a team, you know, like we all are putting in a lot of work together, and that's like pretty, it's just, you don't find that like a lot of times, you know, and have every single person in the band being like, I'm going to like put in as much effort and time as I can. Yeah. And it feels a lot of togetherness, and it's awesome.
Yeah, it's just a lot of fun to be really creative with all these people. So, especially with like the music videos we've been doing, like we did one where Riz did her little characters on our faces, so that's cool. Like, hi Olive, come here. And then we did one. We're doing one where I'm making clay masks. So it's just like being creative and like having an outlet for that now is great, because when you're not with anybody else, I feel like it's harder to get the gumption to do that.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Oh, well, I've also had the experience of being in a group where it's with my best friends. That was the case for my band Junkyard Fort, and it was the case for my musical improv troupe, which was called When Can Do. We would improvise musicals basically at local improv theaters. And there's something really magical about it when the band or a group does feel like a family, when you do get along, when you are genuine friends. And in my experience, both being in groups like that and being in groups that aren't like that, and also in witnessing groups that are like that and groups that are not like that, I think the community within a group makes a difference in the artistic output. Whether it's music videos like you're talking about, whether it's live shows, whether it's the albums themselves. So for you all, as collaborators, what is the most important element in collaboration in your mind? Or for you?
Crickets.
What was that?
I mean, like being able to like actually do it. The fact that we can actually all like play the music, you know, like these songs are like they've been challenging and like really fun, and so like seeing that come together, and like, yeah, I don't know. I just feel like, I don't know. It's just being able to actually do it, you know, like I feel like people can come together and like, you know, put out trash. And the fact that this is actually good, you know.
Are you giving us
like,
all a compliment and saying we're talented?
yeah, we're all literally, we're all actually able to do this, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
For sure.
it's nice.
I personally appreciate that everybody's just putting in their 2 cents and not, you know, you can be in a band and one person will be the oddball who just, yeah, I don't, you know, whatever, you know, so they just show up and do it, you know. But everyone has been putting in, you know, their ideas, and it's like a grab bag, so we all can like to collectively get better, you know. We all want to get better, so we're all trying to get better together. So yeah, I appreciate that.
We all have like input, and like our voices are heard, and we're also like patient, you know. I think that's one of the things. It's like we're driven, but we're also like patient about making sure people's ideas are heard, or so yeah.
So communication, I suppose, is pretty important in collaboration.
Yeah, 100%.
And talent, according to P.
Like, you know, like if we all couldn't play these songs, they would suck, you know. Let's be real.
That's a very important point. You know, I find in my experience, the more skills I or someone has in something, the more enjoyable it often is. You know, I think the more skilled someone is as a songwriter or guitar player, maybe the more fun they're gonna have. And I think the same goes for interpersonal skills, relationship skills, life skills. You know, the more life skills we have, the more we'll probably enjoy life. And so I think that, so I don't know, I don't know exactly where I was going with that, but just being good at your instrument or whatever it might be, but also not just relying on pure talent, because it seems like you all also rely on just downright hard work. And a lot of that's what it takes is hard work, and putting in the hours. And P, earlier you were saying that this band has momentum that other bands you haven't been in for 10 years have had. And so I'm wondering if any of you feel like previous projects have been steps on the road to this project you're at now, and how have those previous projects prepared you for this project?
Honestly don't know. For me personally, I'm not good at promoting. I will work with people in jobs for like 2 years and never mention that I'm in a band. Like I'm so not good at self-promotion. So like honestly, this whole thing has been a learning experience for me. Like, actually, I didn't even have social media on my phone for the last like 2 years.
By the way, new Deadwork song out today.
Yeah, he put out a song this morning.
and I
didn't even tell us.
Yeah, I literally didn't tell anybody. I mean, stepping stone for me, like previous bands, I mean, just learning to play music, because like everything else, like I've never even toured. I've never tried to tour. It never felt like music has always just been a side thing for me that I would hope someday someone would magically hear my music and be like, you know, that guy's gonna, you know, like, I'm gonna get that guy to do something. But like, I don't put in the effort. Like, so like for this whole thing has been a learning process for me. Personally, my previous bands had the stepping stones was just learning how to play music. Like everything else is new for me with this, you know. So.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say that the projects that I've been in felt like stepping stones to this band, because I feel like all of the projects that I've been in or remain in, we're all like so close friends anyway that like I feel like we're all just trying to like make our music work into a living that we can all work off of. You know, if that makes sense. Like if one of our projects makes it, hopefully we just pull all of our other projects up with it.
Yeah.
We're just
That's
trying to
like
ride coattails.
the goal.
Yeah.
That makes total sense. So less of stepping stones and more of a tapestry. Or
Yeah, like if
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure.
Yeah.
Well, that is my hope for you too, that all of your projects get this attention from the attention you're getting for this project. Yeah, that's a great way to look at it.
Yeah. I guess in a different sense for me, like writing in the music, I didn't play mandolin before starting this project. I played guitar in We the Heathens, and Adam played mandolin, my other bandmate, and I just felt like when I tried to start writing these songs, I started on guitar and it felt okay, but it felt like it was missing that mandolin sound, and we had this I call it the garbage mandolin in the closet, so I just pulled it out one day and just figured out how to play it, and little by little it was just kind of, yeah, it was, so I guess We the Heathens was kind of like a stepping stone to learn how to play mandolin and write some of these songs.
So Elliot, I know you've learned at least 2 brand new instruments for this band. Are there any other instruments you've learned?
Saxophone, trumpet, trombone.
I'm working on those. But banjo, I did a little bit of banjo on this one, and yeah, that's about it. What's weird is I'm first and foremost a drummer. I love playing the drums, and I, for some reason, was like, I don't want drums on this project at all. So it's like, how do we make it sound like there's drums without actually having a drum set? So
Well, I gotta say that's pretty inspiring, because I've had a mandolin for a few years and I've only ever learned a few chords. So maybe I need to just commit to making an album with mandolin on it and force myself to learn it.
Elliot went from a 0 to 100. So good at mandolin now for not playing it before. It's just preposterous. It really is.
you gotta hard stuff. So like, I wanted to get good fast. So I learned how to play a lot of technical, like Irish jigs, and I can learn things by ear. So I would just go into YouTube and find a song I like, and then little by little figure out the song, and then play it faster and faster and faster and faster, like any other instrument. So it's just, you just gotta challenge yourself and know that you can do it. Don't tell yourself you can't do it, because then you won't be able to do it. So you gotta tell yourself you can do it.
Yeah, the best thing that Elliot ever told me is that any person that you see shredding an instrument is still just a person, and you're a person, and you can do that too. And for some reason, that just simple thing made me be like, oh yeah, I can.
Totally.
If somebody's done it, you can do it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's wild things that you can do when you just believe in yourself.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so positive.
I love that. I love that. And I have to say, I never would have guessed on listening to the album that anyone was playing brand new instruments that they had just learned. I mean, it sounded like you'd been playing mandolin for years. So I think, I think that's great advice too. Anyone who is shredding, they're a human being who was not born with that magical power. They're not a mutant. It's not something they could do coming out of the womb. It's something that they put hours into, and when you're seeing someone perform, you're not just seeing what they can do in the moment, but seeing the work that they've put in, the hours that they've put in. So I think that's a great way to look at it.
And that's, that can be applied to literally anything. I mean, not just music, like anything you can think. If somebody's done it, you can do it.
Totally.
So I think that's kind of a nice transition into a question for someone who is maybe just learning to play guitar or just trying to write songs or trying to start a band or maybe struggling with their creative process. In addition to what we've talked about, are there other things that you would say to aspiring musicians or artists? Things that maybe you wish someone had told you?
I would say just don't get down on yourself early and just keep pushing. Also, that there's a ton of resources on the internet.
Yeah,
that
I
are
wish the
free.
internet was there when I started.
Yeah.
That you can learn almost anything on YouTube.
Totally.
Yeah. And it doesn't, nothing happens overnight. I mean, you don't get good at something overnight. That doesn't happen. You have to put in the time and you have to put in the practice and you have to want to do it. You have to want to do it for the right reasons too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really. For me, honestly, I've been playing guitar and music since I was like 13, so like almost 16 years. Yeah, 16 years now. But I feel like the first basically 14 years just like I'm gonna learn this like basic, some chords and then try and write lyrics that I like thought, spoke from the heart or whatever. But I feel like it wasn't until like a couple years ago that I started actually like trying to study music. And I know that a lot of people, especially in the punk scene, are kind of like turned off by music theory or whatever. And there's like plenty of reasons for that. And like people can make really amazing music without understanding it. But at least for me, like trying to like study music in that kind of way definitely just gave me like more tools to have for like the writing processes and helped me just understand music a lot more. And I think that, there's obviously like so many different kinds of music from around the world, and there's like theory that goes with all of them. But I just think that for me, like trying to understand how music worked was like super inspiring and made me way more driven. And like it made it seem like a science that I could learn and then apply to like writing instead of just waiting for it to come out. Because a lot of times I was just like, when I wrote songs, it would just like pour out of me and I'd be like, cool, that's a song. But then I'd be like, what do I even practice? And so I don't know, just like I would say like if you're having a creative drought or whatever, just like work on something technical, like try and learn a song on the piano or like whatever instrument you're playing. And it's like, don't get hung up and like discouraged just because like you're not writing really awesome things like right now.
Yeah. From a flip side of that, I had a piano teacher that only let me play the music she chose, and it killed my creative like flow and process. So like if you're just starting an instrument, I would say choose songs that you love, and even if they're hard, just try to do them, and don't let anybody say you have to learn the scales or anything right away. I feel like just follow your flow, because if you don't want to do it, you're not going to do it. So
that's really nice.
I guess for me, don't focus so much on if you're new to playing music, focus on practicing and learning your instrument, and save, you know, the whole learning to record music and do all that stuff. Like, save it for later, you know, just focus, like, really focus on your craft first. And, you know, you don't have to, you know, try and juggle it all. Just get good first, you know, or get better at least.
I would say too, a big thing that helped me with, I guess, anything that I learned is, I guess, just like copying somebody, like not putting out something that you're copying, but like just for the sake of practicing. You know, if you copy somebody, you will learn how they think and how they do things, and you can add that to your toolbox. You know, like, and that's applied to anything. You know, like I also like draw, and when I'm drawing, I will use inspiration from like multiple people, and I'll be like, wow, that's really cool. I could do something like that. I could do something like that. I could do something like that, and then just work it in, and just, you know, it's, as long as you're not directly ripping somebody off and then calling it your own, you know, like everyone's creative process is different, but like you want to get better, and you know, just
Are there? I think that's great advice. Are there specific people that you've tried copying recently?
In art or in music?
In music.
In music?
Or in the past. Yeah.
Not. I guess. Oh yeah. Yeah, I guess so. Big inspirations for Immoral Compass were like Propagandhi, and Anti-Flag, and let's see, what was another one?
All those Irish songs that you learned.
Yeah, all
the jigs that you learned on the mandolin.
The jigs, like just classic Irish Celtic music was a huge inspiration, and lots of what would you call that? The drone music, the droney. There's a bunch of like Wardruna, like those kind of bands that have that kind of drone vocal heavy music. That was like big inspiration. Like but I mean, you can literally take it from anywhere. Like I just wrote a song that was, I listened to the soundtrack for Wonder Woman,
oh yeah,
and that theme song, man, what a banger! And I was like, that's in 7/8. How did they pull off a 7/8 banger? You know? So I was like, I want to write a riff in 7/8. So I like tried to, and like one of the new songs is like it's like a fast 7/8 shred riff. You know, like just stuff like that. Just use your inspiration. You know?
Yeah, I really. Oh, go ahead.
The Wonder Woman song is going to be sick.
Yeah.
It's really good.
I identify so much with so much of the excellent advice you're giving. When I was first learning guitar, the first teacher I had, I was learning scales, and it was boring and it wasn't interesting. And then my next guitar teacher said, "Pick a song and I'll teach it to you." And that was extremely motivating for me, and a lot more fun. And then what Riz was talking about earlier with just keep pushing, because sometimes people give up pretty soon before they've really put the necessary amount of work in. And I don't know if y'all have ever listened to, it's like a 1-minute clip of Ira Glass talking about the creative process. But the way he breaks it down is that people get into whatever field they get into because they have great taste in music, great taste in art, whatever it might be. And then they start creating in that field because they love that field, or because they have great taste. But anytime you're just beginning creating in a field you're passionate about, what you're creating at first isn't going to live up to your killer taste that you have. So that's often when people give up, because like, I know what good is, and this doesn't have that special thing of all these things that I really love. And Ira Glass gives similar advice to y'all, where he says the best thing you can do is a huge amount of work. Do a huge volume of work, and after that huge volume of work, or as you do that huge volume of work, your skills are going to catch up to your taste. And that's been my experience, and just the willingness to write songs that I don't think are great, and to keep writing songs that I'll probably never play. But through all of that, finally you start to get to a place where you're like, wow, I actually, this does appeal to my taste. I think this is actually pretty good. And so it seems like that's been some of y'all's experience too.
Totally.
Definitely.
I kind of like wanted to speak on like what Taylor said earlier, because like I was talking about like learning more, and Taylor was like, just go with it. And honestly, I wanted to speak to that because just I feel like when I first started playing guitar, I had like 2 lessons, and it was like super boring, and just I wasn't into it at all. And then I was like, I'm just gonna like learn songs and like sing and have fun. And like it wasn't until like a decade later that I was like, oh, I just like don't really know how music works. And I feel like it was really important for me to like jump into that like education side like then. But I feel like I know a lot of like classically trained musicians that just can't really write songs because they just had such a rigid idea of music, and like they just killed their creativity. So like I'm honestly really happy that I like just did my own thing for so long, but now I started as a songwriter, and now I just want to become a better musician, so now I want to learn about it. But like a lot of times it can be really like soul sucking if you're just doing like rigid classical training, and I totally get that as well.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. That sort of going back to that accessibility that we were talking about with folk punk. Like you can start knowing 1 or 2 chords, and you can start. You don't have to know how to sing. You can write, whatever comes out, and that can be your entryway. And then once you start, you have these opportunities, like you were saying, to challenge yourself. I had some similar experiences this past March. I decided I do this maybe once a year or so. I'll pick a month where I write a song every day and record like 1 take of it on voice memos. And I did this in December of 2020, and there was like maybe 1 song that I was like, yeah, I think I'll keep playing this one. And that's normally how it is. There's like 1 song out of the 30 that I'm like, this is a keeper. But this past March, 2 different things were going on that I think really increased the quality of the songs to where it wasn't just 1 out of 30. It was like almost every song I was writing, I was like really liking, and I was like, this is different. What's different about this? And I think the 2 things that were different is, 1, I was taking a poetry class, and I was reading like an entire book of poetry a week. And so lyrically, I think that was just hugely helpful. And then the other thing was I was very intentionally listening to types of music I don't normally listen to. And so a direct example of this was I was like, I want to listen to some classical music. I remember liking a Brahms song we sung in choir in my sophomore year of high school. So I looked up Brahms, and I found Hungarian Dance No. 5 in G minor. And I was a little manic at the time. I have bipolar disorder. And I was listening to the song, and I was like, this song sounds like a manic episode. And so I wrote lyrics to the tune called Manic Episode No. 5 in G minor, just completely ripping off the melody exactly. And it was one of the more interesting songs I wrote that month, because I was intentionally, grabbing these influences that I don't normally do and I don't normally try. So what you were saying, Micah, about, trying new things and doing things differently and learning new things. I'm just really identifying with everything y'all are talking about.
Thank you.
Oh yeah.
We might have to wrap things up with your.
Yeah, I was just about to say we should wrap up. We've been on for about an hour. I've so enjoyed this conversation. Thank you all.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'd love.
Dad! Whoa!
I'd love to do this again sometime. And stay in touch. And I'm gonna keep plugging y'all's album. So final words, can you tell everyone who's tuning in where to find the album, where to buy merch? Now's the time to plug yourselves.
Go ahead, tell them where to find all of it.
So our full album comes out on July 23rd this month. You can find that. It's going to be on Spotify, Apple Music, everywhere you stream music, or you can find it on our Bandcamp at doomscrollband.bandcamp.com.
Excellent.
And we're working on merch.
Yeah, merch is still in the works.
We're gonna have a physical release later this year. Everybody's been asking, but it's gonna happen. We just haven't had the funds and the time, so it's just
Right.
It'll be a later thing.
So
digital.
Yeah.
So anyone who's watching this, when the album comes out, go download the digital version on Bandcamp. Give Doomscroll some of your money so that they can make some physical copies and make some merch that you can also support them with. And after you download it on Bandcamp, go listen to it on Spotify.
Buy our stuff so that you can buy our stuff later.
or that.
All the platforms too. We're on
Yes.
Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok.
TikTok.
We're on,
Subscribe
we
to
are-
us on
we are
TikTok.
on TikTok.
So next time we can do this live.
Yes, I can't wait to see your music videos. Everyone follow Doomscroll everywhere. When the album comes out, share with your friends, and let's get the word out about this amazing band. Thank you all so much. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Good luck with you. Take care, y'all.
Have a good rest of your day.
Bye.